What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Show Me Hoops podcast. I'm Coach David Heeb. I'm joined by my brother, Coach Toby Heeb, and that was Muscadine Bloodline. Those guys are awesome. We appreciate them for letting us use their music as our intro. And Toby, what's going on tonight?
Well, it's a good time right now because I just got to hear a little Muscadine Bloodline for the second time tonight.
That's right. We started this show once. And if those of you that were on for that first ride and you're back again, we welcome you back. Those of you who are just now tuning in, thanks for bearing with us here. We had a little technical difficulty, and I'm going to blame it on Maverick Carter and LeBron James people right now. I'm going to say they're trying to block the truth right now, but the truth is we were going to give LeBron a lot of love. But in a crazy
We're gonna give him his credit.
we are. And guys, if you can't hear Toby right now, if you don't hear him as well, I apologize, but I'm hoping that this sounds okay. But basically, what we've got going on right here is just an entire debacle of the phones. We've had a lot of phone trouble, so
It's craziness.
yeah. And so we're gonna try to make this work the best that we can, and I hope that everybody can hear okay. So, to start out with, when we're having the LeBron versus Jordan debate. First of all, I think LeBron is great enough that you can actually have the debate. But I think to say just right off the top that Jordan is the greatest player of all time, you've got to go back and include some other people in that discussion. It's generational, and we'll get into that a little bit. So we're going to talk a little bit about just the generational nature of this. Every generation likes to argue for their own guy. But the other guys, they absolutely have some merit in this debate. But then we're also going to talk a little bit about how LeBron, could have maybe been a slam dunk greatest of all time if he had been drafted anywhere but Cleveland, who might be the worst franchise in pro sports. And so that's kind of what
about that Cleveland area.
Something about Cleveland, And so to start out with, let's go back. Let's go back to 1959. Rookie came into the NBA, a guy by the name of Wilt Chamberlain. Okay, Wilt Chamberlain was a great player. If you're a fan of basketball, you know who Wilt Chamberlain is. He scored 100 points in a game, and like you and I were just talking about, he's probably the best athlete in the history of basketball. I mean, just as far as athletic ability, the guy's 7'1". He was a high jumper, a hurdler, just Herculean strength. The stories about Wilt Chamberlain are like stories about Paul Bunyan. Like, it's almost make-believe, except they're actually true. I mean, there's never been anybody that big, that fast, that strong. If you just look at his career, the numbers, Wilt's probably got the greatest numbers in the history of the game, The numbers, you could argue, are inflated because of the era, and we'll get into that in just a minute. And you could argue that if Wilt Chamberlain had been able to get by Bill Russell and the Boston Celtics a couple times and win a couple of championships, he might be the slam dunk greatest player of all time. I mean, if Wilt had 3 or 4 championships with his numbers, he's probably the greatest player ever,
Right.
But,
he just doesn't have those titles.
Doesn't have the titles, and when you dig into the numbers, you can find some flaw in his game. His rookie year, he comes out averaging 37.6 points and 27 rebounds a game. I mean, wow. I mean, just right off the bat, those numbers are like video game numbers. The next year, he averaged 38 points, 27 rebounds. The next year, he averaged 50 points and almost 26 rebounds a game. So, I mean, he averaged 50 points a game. But the most impressive part of that season, he played 48.5 minutes a game. The game's only 48 minutes long. So you're like, wait a minute, that's got to be some kind of typo. No, he didn't sit out 1 minute all season, including overtime. So there was a 3-year stretch. Wilt played 47.8 minutes a game, 48.5 minutes. He didn't sit out all season, then 47.6 minutes. I mean, for 3 years, the guy just didn't come out of the game, It's just incredible for a guy his size, like I said, his ability. Just amazing. But he also shot the ball 32 times a game, 31 times a game, 40 times a game, 35 times a game. And he only shot 46.1%, 50.9%, 50.6%. He didn't shoot a very high percentage for a big man. So, yes, he scored a lot of points, but he also shot it virtually every time down the floor. And a lot of those rebounds were his own misses.
Right. And that led to some easy shots for him.
Yeah, so, I mean, Wilt's numbers, unbelievable. We're not trying to take anything away from him. But, again, if you dig into his numbers a little bit, there's a reason he scored so much. Nobody's ever shot that much in the NBA. But his rookie year was 59 and 60. If you go one decade later to 69-70 year, you get to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. And when I first started doing this, and I made my top 10 list that I'll give at the end of this, Kareem was actually my pick for the greatest player ever. Because if you look at Kareem's first 10 years in the NBA, let me back up to college. They changed the rules, and they banned dunking from the NBA or from college because Kareem was so dominant. You could not dunk the ball. Like, think about that today. If a guy was just tearing people up so much, I'd be like in today's NBA, Steph Curry's dominating, we got to ban threes. Everything's a 2 now. Like, just think about how crazy that would be. Like, they're going to disallow a particular kind of shot in the game because one guy is so good, it's not fair if we let people do this. You know, it's just unbelievable to think about. But Kareem was dominant. He comes into the NBA in 69-70, exactly one decade later from Wilt. So they actually played each other a little bit. But Kareem's 10 years younger. Kareem's first 10 years in the NBA, Toby, he was a 6-time MVP. So if you just stop right there and say, hey, the guy's an MVP 6 times in 10 years. He averaged 29 and 15, 32 and 16, 35 and 17, 30 and 16. I mean, he just comes out. I mean, the guy was, just utterly dominant. I don't know if we've ever seen a guy dominate the league the way Kareem did the first 10 years he was in the NBA. Just dominate. And again, you got to stop and think. This is back when he's getting 22, 25 shots a game. You played through the big man back then. You got a lot of rebounds because the ball went inside more. There's more of those kind of short misses around the rim, things like that. So, yes, his numbers are going to be a little inflated. And if you look at his career as you get down to like the mid-70s to mid-80s, now, of course, he's getting older, but his numbers decreased because the game changed a little bit, But Kareem, I would argue his first decade in the NBA, nobody's ever dominated the game more than Kareem did. He had the most unguardable shot in the history of the game. And again, we're bringing this up because we're going to bring it back full circle to LeBron. Because, again, if you look at the whole career of Kareem, the argument that I would make against Kareem was he won one championship until he got Magic Johnson. And people always say, well, Jordan had Pippen. I agree with that. I'm going to make that point in just a minute. But I think Kareem, he won 5 of his 6 championships when he had Magic, and then he got Worthy and those other guys to be on the team with him. I mean, so he started out in Milwaukee. He had Oscar Robertson for his first one. Then Oscar kind of fell off, and then, Kareem couldn't just dominate by himself. And I would argue that on 4 of his 6 championship teams, he wasn't the best player, because he was older by that point when the Lakers were really rolling. So, but Kareem, I mean, absolutely, if we're talking about the team picture of not the all-time greats, but the greatest of all time, like Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, those guys would be all-time greats, but they're not in the conversation for greatest of all time. Wilt and Kareem are.
There's just a few.
Yeah, that's right. I think Wilt and Kareem are. I mean, if you wanted to argue that with me, I could have that argument with you. And, I might think one way, you might think another way, but at least it's a valid argument. And then you get to Jordan versus LeBron. And so we're not going to get into their numbers just yet, but I'm going to switch gears here for just a minute and say, the knock on LeBron is always, well, he's 3-5 in the finals. He's 3-5 in the finals. Well, first of all, he's been in the finals 8 times. You get credit for that.
That's impressive.
That's very impressive. The other thing that I would say about that is, how do you build a great team? Let's go back and look historically. Let's go back to Kareem, the Showtime Lakers. I'm going to stop right here and say I cannot say this strongly enough. If you look in the history of the NBA, I can think of 2 times in the history of basketball that you had 2 of the 10 greatest players of all time on the same team. And that would have been Magic and Kareem. I'm talking about in their prime. Magic and Kareem.
Right, at the same time.
Magic and Kareem and Shaq and Kobe. That's it. It's only happened twice that you had 2 of the, I'm talking 5 or 10 best players of all time on one team. So in 1976, Kareem goes to the Lakers. That year they went 40 wins and 42 losses. They didn't even make 500 his first year with the Lakers. And this is when Kareem was still Kareem. He's dominant.
The best player in the
He's the best player in the league. He's averaging 28 points, 17 rebounds a game. Okay, they go 40 and 42 with Kareem. You go to the next couple years, they start winning 45, 50 games a year. They're kind of creeping up. Okay, Kareem again won 6 MVPs from 1971 to 1980. In that decade, he was 6-time MVP. But let's back up and say because we're looking at how do you build a great team. They already have Kareem there. In 1976, his first year, the Utah Jazz signed Gail Goodrich, who was a Laker. The rules at the time said that you had to compensate if you signed one of a team's veteran players. So like what Kevin Durant did going to Golden State, they would have had to compensate the Thunder with some kind of picks or something.
Right.
The Lakers, as part of this, there was a lot of different parts that went around, but they got the first round pick from the Jazz in 1979. Goodrich only played 3 years with Utah. He was at the end of his career. He wasn't very good. They were horrible, obviously. They had the worst team in the league. So in 1979, they got the first round pick, and that number 1 pick was Magic Johnson. Okay, so you already had a guy that's won 6 MVPs in that decade, and right in the middle of that, you get Magic Johnson to go with him. Okay, I mean, what are the chances of that happening? You know, it took really good luck. It took somebody else's mistake. The Jazz's mistake was the Lakers' fortune. So then you go to 1980, they got Magic and Kareem, and in 1980, the Lakers and the Cleveland Cavaliers, one of the worst organizations in the history of sports, they swapped journeyman players, and I'm not even going to tell you their names because you won't even know who they are. But as part of that swap, they traded number 1 picks. They had a guy there that was the owner of the Cleveland then named Stipend. And there is a rule in the NBA draft now called the Stipend rule that you can't trade your first-round pick 2 years in a row because this guy just kept trading his first-round picks, and Cleveland was just a horrible, horrible franchise. So that pick ended up being the 82, and it was the number 1 pick in the draft, was James Worthy. So right here you got Kareem, one of the, arguably the greatest player of all time, and they get 2 number 1 picks in his prime. Like, what are the?
They basically stole those guys.
They stole those 2 guys, and not only did they get the number 1 pick, it was a year like sometimes the number 1 pick is like Michael Olowokandi, sometimes it's Shaq, right? It was Magic Johnson and James Worthy. Magic's one of the 5 or 10 best players ever. Worthy's Hall of Famer. So if you look at it, number 1, they made some smart moves, but number 2, they I'm getting a phone call here, Tobe. We're gonna ignore that one for just a minute. Let me hit the button right there. So if you look at it, they nailed the picks. Okay. So now let's look at another franchise. Let's look at the Celtics. Okay, because again, if we're comparing LeBron to the all-time greats, and we're saying LeBron didn't win enough rings, we're comparing him to Magic, we're comparing him to Bird, we're comparing him to Jordan, we're comparing him to those guys. In 1978, the Boston Celtics, with the 6th pick in the draft, took a junior named Larry Bird. And again, the rules were different then. You didn't have to declare for the draft. They could just draft you. So they took Bird knowing he was going to go back to school his senior year. Right. So he's the 6th pick in the draft, and he's going to go play another year in college. So in 1978, he went back to college for a year. The Celtics owner at the time, this is crazy. And again, this is just good luck for Larry Bird. Bad luck for LeBron James. But the Celtics owner traded his stake of the Celtics to own the Buffalo Braves. There used to be an NBA team called the Buffalo Braves because he wanted to move them to L.A., and now they're the L.A. Clippers. Well, as part of this deal, he traded Bob McAdoo, who was a 3-time scoring champ in the NBA, to the Celtics for 3 first-round picks. Bob McAdoo was old, and he tried to dump him on the Celtics for 3 first-rounders. Red Auerbach, who was running the Celtics, was so mad he almost quit to go work for the Knicks. So Red, who's one of the great architects in the history of basketball, he trades McAdoo for M.L. Carr, who was a contributor on those 80s Celtics teams, and 2 first-round picks. So he flipped back out of that trade. In 1980, the Celtics had the number 1 and number 13 picks because of that trade. They traded those 2 picks to Golden State for Robert Parrish and the number 3 pick, who they picked Kevin McHale. So with one trade, he ends up with Parrish and McHale. So again, in a 3-year window, he took Larry Bird and he did all this trading and got Robert Parrish and Kevin McHale. Like, what are the chances of that? You see what I'm saying? I mean, that
takes a lot of luck and a lot of skill to be able to pull those things off.
It does. And so we're going to pause right here, Toe, because we, as you know, we are sponsored, or we sponsor Muscadine Bloodline. And so every week we try to play some music of theirs, and we're big fans of theirs. So we're going to come back now that you've looked at the Lakers, you looked at the Celtics, how they made some shrewd moves to build their dynasty up. We're going to play a little Muscadine Bloodline right here, and this song is called "Moving On."
Finally ain't tearing you down. No more drinking alone, staring at that phone. Drive by that house and don't care if they're home. One day you'll wake up, the hurt ain't as strong. Maybe, maybe, maybe you're just moving on. If it's true, sound of their name doesn't faze you or shake you up. And if it's true, the side of the bed where they slept ain't as cold, baby, you're getting over the drinking alone, staring at that phone. Drive by that house and don't care if they're home. One day you'll wake up, the hurt ain't as strong. Maybe, maybe, maybe you're just moving on. The memories all over that town finally ain't tearing you down. No more drinking alone, staring at that phone. Drive by that house and don't care if they're home. One day you'll wake up, the hurt ain't as strong. Maybe, maybe, maybe you ain't drinking alone, staring at that phone. Drive by that house and don't care if they're home. One day you'll wake up, the hurt ain't as strong. Maybe, maybe, maybe you're just moving on. Oh, maybe you're just moving on.
And again, we want to thank the fellas from Muscadine Bloodline. And Tobe, we got you back on the regular phone line now, so nice to have you back.
Yeah, we're good to go. Yeah.
I tell you right now, we're not 3-5 in the finals, so it's going to be hard to keep us down. So, like we talked about, the Lakers, couple of just sneaky trades, unbelievable luck. They end up with Magic Johnson and James Worthy to go along with Kareem. The Celtics, through some crazy drafting and trades, end up with Bird, Parrish, and McHale, and other guys. They've made other moves. Both teams did. But we're talking about how could LeBron have been the greatest, or is it his fault that we penalize him because he got drafted by a bad team? Like, I'm trying to make an argument for LeBron because I think he is truly great. And so
Right.
Looking ahead at Jordan's Bulls now, we're talking about, comparing Jordan and LeBron. First of all, if you look at Jordan's Bulls and, Jordan had Pippen, Jordan had help, Jordan had this. First of all, Jordan was the number 3 pick. So the Bulls got lucky that, Houston picked Elijah 1. You can't argue with that pick.
No brainer.
They picked it. in hindsight, of course, you'd have picked Jordan over Hakeem. But, at the time, the guy's a Hall of Famer. That's not a bad draft pick.
And they still went on and won 2 titles.
Exactly. I mean, Hakeem's one of the, 10, 12 best players ever. Sam Bowie would have been a great pro if he could have stayed healthy. Sam Bowie was a good player. It's not like he was a bust. He just couldn't stay healthy. Jordan was the number 3 pick. I mean, first of all, wow, right there. The next year, Jerry Krause, the GM of the Bulls, they traded with Cleveland, one of the worst organizations in the history of sports, for Charles Oakley, who led the NBA in rebounding twice and became a key member of their early teams in an important trade chip later. And then they signed a free agent from San Antonio named John Paxson, who would be the starting guard for the rest of their first three-peat. They did draft Keith Lee that year in the first round, which was a miss. They did not make a good draft pick that first year after Jordan. But they did pick up 2 key pieces in a trade and a free agent signing. His second year, Jordan gets hurt. So they had a pretty good draft pick. They picked a guy named Brad Sellers. Brad Sellers, not a household name, but he was a key player for their early teams, and he became a good trade chip for later. The third draft after Jordan, because he got hurt, and they had some good picks and all this, they drafted Olden Polynice, and of course they traded him for Scottie Pippen. But then they also had a second pick that year, number 10 pick in the draft, because of a lot of good trades. The Bulls, the Celtics, and the Lakers, if you notice one theme, they made picks to get more draft picks. And we'll talk about that with Cleveland in just a minute. They didn't have draft picks. They kept trading their draft picks away. The Bulls, Celtics, and Lakers tried to add picks so they could keep adding players around their young stars. They traded, got Pippen. They drafted Horace Grant with that second pick. So right there you had his 2 forwards that were his bookend forwards for that first three-peat. They had, in 3 off seasons, they drafted Pippen, Grant, Sellers. They signed Paxson and Oakley. I mean, that's incredible amount of talent to add around Jordan, who's already the best player in the game by this point.
I mean, the only thing that kind of resembles what they did right there would be what the Thunder did when they first started out.
Absolutely.
And they just done that by solely drafting players.
Absolutely. In 3 drafts, the Thunder got
the amount of talent they put together all at once.
They got KD, Russ, Harden, and Ibaka in 3 drafts. The Thunder did.
And Jeff Green.
And Jeff Green, right, who became a good trade piece. So in 3 seasons they've added this. Well, then they traded Oakley and a first-round pick for Bill Cartwright. Bill Cartwright, if you're a Bulls fan from the 90s, was a starting center, and he had the ugliest free throw of all time. But then that draft pick that they swapped draft picks in this deal, they drafted Will Perdue, who is another key member of those teams. Then the next draft, they got Stacey King and B.J. Armstrong, who were key members. I mean, they nailed those draft picks. Everybody that says, oh, Jordan had Pippen. Yeah, he had Pippen. But, man, they had a deep roster. You got to think about
a lot of bigs, too.
Every era is you have to build, like we were talking about earlier. If Wilt Chamberlain was in the game today, like Joel Embiid, people are starting to gear up and say, we better get a big guy to stop Embiid. We have to have a big. If Wilt was in the game now, I don't want to hear that he doesn't fit today's game. Today's game would have to fit to Wilt if he was in today's game. You better get a big guy or he's going to average 40. I mean, because he's not these big guys that can't score. That's not who he is, okay? The Bulls built their roster. You got to think about who they're having to go through. The Pistons and the Celtics. The Celtics, the famous Big Three, their best 3 players were small forward, power forward, center. The Bad Boys Pistons built their team to beat those Celtics. The Bulls built their team to beat the Bad Boys, where they had Lane Beer, you had Mahorn, you had John Sally, you had Dennis Rodman. They had a lot of 4s and 5s on that team. And so, big players. The Bulls had a deep, young, talented front line to help Jordan. Their point guards through both runs of the 6 championships, their point guards were like Paxson, B.J. Armstrong, Ron Harper. Their point guards were never flashy players. They surrounded Jordan with a thick front line. I mean, first string, second string. They were all good, athletic guys because that's what they needed to win back then. So if you look at what the Bulls, the Lakers, the Celtics did, they accumulated draft picks. They nailed those draft picks. They made some other good signings. Now let's look at what LeBron had to deal with.
Right.
LeBron was the first pick in 2003, and straight out of high school, he is the best straight out of high school player we've ever seen. We've never seen a guy come in the league like that. Just unbelievable what LeBron did. After that season, this is a key point. And this is, again, Cleveland, the worst organization. I'm just going to say they're the worst in the history of American sports. They had Carlos Boozer. Carlos Boozer was a free agent, or he had 1 year left on his rookie deal. He's going to make about $600,000 or something like that. They could let him play out that year, or they could release him where he would be a restricted free agent, and they could re-sign him to a deal. The owner of the Cleveland Cavs made a deal with Boozer, or he thought he had made a deal with Boozer. Hey, we're going to release you and re-sign you to a restricted free agent deal because he was playing really well. They wanted to lock him up for 4 more years. They wanted to reward him, pay him some money. When they released Boozer, instead of keeping him around for another year for a good contract and then re-signing him, when they released him, Utah offered him a deal so extravagant that Cleveland did not match. It was like $70 million for 4 years or something. Cleveland didn't match. Over the next 5 years, that contract was a 5-year contract. Over the next 5 years, Boozer averaged 19 points, 11 rebounds a game. He's an all-star. He's an all-star. I mean, Carlos Boozer was a really good player during that stretch. As a matter of fact, after that contract, he got a max deal in Chicago. He got a max contract.
Well, real quick, just looking right before they drafted LeBron, the 4 year or 3 years before that, whatever, going back to 99, they actually drafted fairly decent. In 99, they took Andre Miller and Trajan Langdon. Andre Miller, of course, turned out to be
a good player.
All-time good player.
Yep.
Next year in 2000, Jamal Crawford. I think
player.
they actually traded. I don't think he ever played for Cleveland, though. He got traded, I'm pretty sure.
It's a good pick. That's a good pick.
It's a good pick at number 8 also. Then the next year, this is one that they did not do great in the 01 draft, and this kind of hindered them in the future because they took these big guys. Desana Jawap out of high school, power forward, with the 8 pick. And then at 20, they took Brendan Haywood, which made sense. That's a good pick at 20, but it took him a while to play well.
Yeah, he's a solid player.
But in that same 01 year, if they wouldn't have taken Jawap out of high school, they could have had Joe Johnson, Richard Jefferson, Zach Randolph.
Oh, yeah.
All those guys went before.
I'm going to play the what-if draft game here in a minute, yeah. But
and then the next year, they took DeJuan Wagner and Carlos. They stole Boozer in the second round. But could have got, instead of DeJuan Wagner, could have got Amari or Caron Butler, and they probably didn't take Amari because they drafted those bigs the year before.
They had bad experience with the high school kids. But, yeah, like they lost Boozer, so LeBron could have had his Pippen, quote-unquote, like your second player. And so the year after LeBron, they drafted Luke Jackson. If you've never heard of Luke Jackson, you're not alone. He did not have a great career in the NBA. He was a good player at Oregon, but he didn't have a good player in the NBA.
Good college player.
Yeah, but they passed on Josh Smith. They passed on J.R. Smith.
Smith.
Now again, those guys were high school guys. So they kind of got burned, and they weren't going to. We can play the what if draft game all day. I mean, but the bottom line is, if you didn't pick Josh Smith or J.R. Smith, pick somebody, not Luke Jackson. Okay. Here's the best part. In 2005, you want to guess who they picked? Nobody. Because
no draft pick.
They did not have a draft pick from a trade they made in 1997 when LeBron was in the 6th grade. So here you have no draft pick in 97 because of a trade you made when LeBron was in the 6th grade. So LeBron shows up. He loses Boozer. They draft Luke Jackson, and then they don't have a draft pick. The next year they pick Shannon Brown. Okay, I'll give him a little credit because it was the 27th pick in the draft, and when you get that late, it's hard to find somebody. I admit.
Right.
07, they had no draft pick again because they had traded for Jerry Welsh. You know who Jerry Welsh is? Neither do I. But they could have kept that pick in the slot that they would have been picking at. They could have had Aaron Afalo, Rudy Fernandez, Thiago Splitter, or Mark Gasol.
Solid players.
Mark Gasol. How about Mark Gasol,
Yeah.
And so...
Well, and the year before when they picked Shannon Brown, too, they didn't really miss out on too many players.
No, there's not a lot there.
Paul Millsap went in the second round. That's about the only guy they could have.
A lot of people...
And nobody saw that happen.
A lot of people passed on those guys. So, I mean, you can't beat them up for that. But the point being, 04, 05, 06, 07, and then at 08, they drafted J.J. Hickson. J.J. Hickson was at least a decent player for them. But
that was the year they could have got somebody.
They could have drafted Serge. They could have drafted Nick Batum. They could have drafted George Hill. They could have drafted DeAndre Jordan.
Mario Chalmers,
Yeah.
Goran Dragic.
There were some players in that draft that
And Dragic, too, like, they may not have seen this out of him, but people were talking about how good that guy was going to be.
Right.
Like, he was a super athletic guard coming from Europe. He didn't play like most European guards. I mean, that one, and that would have made sense to put him alongside LeBron.
Well, the bottom line is you drafted LeBron in 03, then 04, 05, 06, 07, 08.
You got nothing.
5 drafts in a row. Not only do you got nothing, but you let Boozer walk. Like, so, you didn't surround LeBron with anything, and then so they
09 they got nothing.
So they started, 09 they drafted some guy nobody's ever heard of, but basically you got that 2 or 3 year window after you get the star, like we were talking about with the Thunder.
You got to do work.
You're the worst team in the league for a reason. You don't have a lot of talent, so you draft Jordan, you draft LeBron, you draft one of these guys, right? Okay, You're going to get better. Now you're picking like we're talking about. You're picking at the end of the first round now because you're going to get better with him. So you got about 2 or 3 years when you're still picking somewhere in the first half of the draft probably to where you can maybe add somebody like a Pippen, add somebody like a Kevin McHale, somebody, They did not do that at all.
And then look at it to this point now. Of course, they went on and after LeBron left, they got Kyrie and Tristan Thompson.
Okay, hold on.
Deion Waiters the next year.
Let's pause that real quick because here's the thing you got to understand about LeBron, and this is my biggest gripe with LeBron. LeBron now, he's come back the second time to Cleveland, and when he went to Miami, he was this way in Miami. LeBron is now player, coach, GM. Like when he got back, like you're saying, they had all these number ones, they had all these guys on the roster. LeBron's like, trade this guy, I want Kevin Love. Trade Wiggins, I want Love. Trade this guy. Like, those things don't happen if LeBron doesn't say so, right? So, basically, LeBron's first 5 years in the league, because Cleveland is the worst organization in the history of pro sports, LeBron has basically told all his GMs since then,
Look at me. Look at me. I'm the captain now.
I'm the captain now. Okay, like, LeBron quit trusting his organization. He completely quit trusting them. And so like that's my biggest gripe with LeBron.
But look to this point that since he's got back, he came back in 14, traded Wiggins, like you said,
right,
number 1 pick that year. The next year, 2015, they drafted Tyus Jones, traded in the Wiggins deal, Dominic Pointer, whoever that is, and then 16 no pick, 17 no pick.
Right.
So it's just like the first 4 years in Cleveland. The second,
it's the
exact and now look at where it's at. It's kind of the same
blueprint. It's the same blueprint. And so, on the one hand, I don't blame.
And I think this time it falls on LeBron's shoulders.
I don't blame LeBron for being the way he is because it was an instinct. The guy wants to win, okay, and he knows he is one of those guys we're talking about he's in the team picture for greatest of all time. He's in the picture, right? He needs some championships.
He might be in the middle holding the ball.
Yeah, he's that guy, and it's not his fault. If you put LeBron where Jordan was at and Jordan where LeBron was at, I think it's the exact opposite discussion in a lot of ways. In a lot of ways, okay? Now, I'm not going to go as far as to say LeBron's a better player than Jordan, but I'm just saying as far as a better career, I think totally, if you just traded them places in history, you would have said LeBron had the greatest career in the history of basketball. I really believe that because
that could be true. Yeah,
his talent is right there. Now, if you're looking at like we're talking about, it's hard to pick at the end of the first round. I want to bring up one team who absolutely puts on a clinic with picking at the end of the first round. That's the San Antonio Spurs.
Yep.
And again, when you talk about the Spurs have won 5 championships. You got to get a little bit
They're
lucky.
used to being at the end of the first round.
You got to get a little bit lucky, like with Cleveland. They got a little bit lucky. They got the number 1 pick the year it was LeBron. It could have been the number 1 pick a year later when it wasn't LeBron, right? So with San Antonio, they already had a top 25, top 50 all-time guy in David Robinson. David Robinson is a Hall of Famer. He was averaging 26, 12, 3 assists, 2 steals, and 4 blocks during this run that they were having. Like, David Robinson was a great player. He got hurt, so they get the number 1 pick. It's Tim Duncan. Okay, again, lucky break. That was in 97. 2 years later, in 1999, they draft Manu Ginobili in the second round. Unbelievable. One of the greatest draft picks of all time, as far as value for where they picked him at.
Oh, yeah.
2 years later, with the 28th pick, they picked Tony Parker. 2 years later, with the 28th pick, they picked Leandro Barbosa. Now, they traded him, but he's a really good player.
It's a good pick, though.
The next year, with the 28th pick in 04, they picked Bino Udra. Now, you might not have heard of him, but he was actually a good backup, good role player for them in some of their early teams. He was good. The next year in 05, and don't throw anything at me, they picked Jan Mahimi. Jan Mahimi used to be a good player. He's overpaid, bench warmer for the Wizards right now.
Hey, if he made $10 million a year right now instead of 16 or 18, we think he was a good player.
We think he was a good player. You're right. But they picked him with the 28th pick. In 07, they picked Thiago Splitter with the 28th pick. In 08,
he worked out well for him.
Yeah, he's a good player. He's a key part of a championship. 08, they picked George Hill with the 26th pick, and then they picked Goran Dragic in the second round. Now, they traded Dragic, but still, they're making a living out of it.
They know who to go after at the end.
The best one was in 2011. They traded the rights to 2 European players in George Hill for the 15th pick, which was Kawhi Leonard. And so they have absolutely made a living on accumulating picks, on drafting good European players, stashing them overseas until they're ready to come. They have made a living on trading assets like they did to get Kawhi, and compare that to what LeBron's teams have done. And again, I'm like you, early, I can't put that on LeBron. It's just bad luck he was on one of these situations. Mm-hmm. But in the second half of his career, it's absolutely on LeBron, because one thing about LeBron, he's a student of the game. He's very intelligent. At what point could you not say, you know what, this is how you build championship teams? Like, if you look at the greatest rosters, the greatest dynasties, Lakers, Celtics, Bulls, Spurs, they're all built the same way. They're built through the draft. They're built through trades. They're built through, organically grown type teams. You don't keep trading your draft picks and keep trying to bring in a lot of veterans. And if you look at what LeBron's team did this year, they bring in Wade and all these older guys, and they're just horrible. But that's the team LeBron put together. To the point where when they made all the other trades, LeBron's like, we've got a bleeping squad now. Well, look at their squad.
He had one.
Yeah, he thought he had one. And so, kind of bringing this back. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, mine. I need to wait on mine, and probably
it's
going to be a point on LeBron.
Just bringing it back full circle, I mean, I think, again, we're talking about 4 guys here: LeBron, Jordan, Wilt, Kareem. All 4 of them had the numbers. All 4 of them were a unique player, like Kareem, 7'3", skyhook. I mean, just unguardable. You got Wilt, 7'1", the greatest athlete in the history of basketball. Michael Jordan, 6'6", phenomenal athlete. Best wing athlete we've ever seen at the 2-guard position. We've never seen an athlete as good as Michael Jordan, and also a phenomenal skilled player. Then LeBron James, we've never seen an athlete like LeBron. LeBron is the Wilt of small forwards. We've never seen a person that size, that strength, that package. In my opinion, the 3 greatest athletes, just physical marvels we've seen, is Wilt, LeBron, and Shaq. We've never seen a body like that can move like that. And Jordan would be that of NBA 2 guards. Now, there were guys that were his size but weren't as athletic as him. We got 4 guys, unique, athletically, physically, of all time, and they have the numbers. 2 of these guys don't have the rings, Wilt and LeBron. 2 of these guys do have the rings, Jordan and Kareem. Okay?
Right.
So let's dive into the numbers. We talked a little bit about Wilt and Kareem. Okay, with Wilt, he just shot a whole lot, And with Kareem, the first decade, you got to put that up there with anybody, including Jordan, including Wilt, including anybody. Okay, but once you get past that first decade with Kareem, you take a pretty big dip. If you look,
and also Kareem only led the league in scoring 2 seasons in his career.
Yeah, that's right. And so now you got to think, part of that time he was in there with Wilt, and Wilt was doing his thing. And so, but anyway, going back to Jordan. If you look at Jordan, this is what I did. I broke it down, and I said, if we're going to try to look at Jordan and LeBron, I think LeBron's career, and the reason I put Kareem in this at all, I think LeBron's career is a lot more similar to Kareem's than it is Jordan's, because Kareem played until age 41. Now, he didn't start playing until he's 22. So he played in the NBA a total of 20 seasons. Okay, 14 with the Lakers, 6 with the Bucks. LeBron, has already played 15 seasons. So he's he's already played as many seasons as Jordan did.
He's still going to keep going.
He's going to keep going. One of Jordan's seasons, he broke his foot and played 18 games.
Right.
He had another year he didn't play because he played baseball, and he had another year he came back and played 17 games after he came out of his retirement from baseball. And then let's not even look at the last 2 years of the Wizards, because that wasn't Jordan. You know what I mean? Like, he's just coming out of retirement because he was a bad owner and a bad GM. Okay, so
he was making money for the team.
That's right. And so and he loved the game. He wanted to play. But here's what I did to try to make it an apples to apples comparison, because people say, oh, LeBron's got the assists. LeBron's a better all around player. Like some of these people like Nick Wright and people that just get hung up on the numbers. He's
gone way too far with it, by the way.
Nick has gone way too far. He's a really smart basketball guy, but he's gone way too far. Here's the best way to take a look at the numbers. I looked at age 21 to age 29. Let's look at that career, that part of their career for LeBron and Jordan, because 21 was Jordan's rookie year, and by 21 that was LeBron's third year in the league, but that's the most points he's ever averaged a game. So I wanted to put that number, definitely put that number in, because you want to try to give LeBron his best season. So if you look at age 21 to 29, okay, just from a personal success and a team success, at that point Jordan only had 3 championships, LeBron had 2. So, team success, they kind of match up with each other a little bit.
Pretty close.
Yeah, so, the same years, same age, who was a better player? And somebody asked me, and I said, inbox me with questions and stuff like that. I had a question, what about Kobe? You guys are leaving Kobe out. So before I do LeBron and Jordan, I'm going to do LeBron and Kobe. During that age, from 21 to 29, okay, they played virtually the same minutes per game, 39, 40 minutes a game. LeBron shot about 2 times per game less, but he made more shots a game than Kobe, just barely, because he shot better. Their three-point percentage, identical, 34%. They actually shot the same number and made the same number of threes per game. During that age, everybody says LeBron couldn't shoot. LeBron was identical shooter to Kobe during that area. Okay,
I never would have guessed that one.
I would have never guessed that one. But Kobe was a gunner. Like he shot more than LeBron. LeBron shot a better percentage. Kobe shot better free throw percentage than LeBron. They got to the free throw line about almost exactly the same amount of times per game, but Kobe shot 84%. LeBron shot about 74%. So Kobe's about a 10% shooter. Okay, total rebounds per game. Kobe averaged, everybody's like, LeBron, best all-around player. He's bigger, stronger. He can do more things. LeBron averaged 7.4 rebounds a game during that stretch. And that's my biggest knock with LeBron, is for being 6'8" and 240 and the best athlete ever at his position. Why has he not ever averaged 9 rebounds a game as a pro? He's never even averaged 9 rebounds a game.
That's
you
he
see
could get 12 easily
every night, and that's my problem with LeBron. Is like, for as good as he is, he should have been better.
And that's the thing about Wilt and Kareem was, like, they had an advantage during their time, probably because of their size and athleticism.
But they used it.
But they still went and done it.
They did it. That's like a whole. This is a
they
whole.
They didn't just stop at a nice little number that looks good on paper.
This is a whole side note. Anthony Davis, if you're all of a sudden the best player in the league, your team can't get out rebounded by the Warriors 57-42, and you let KD and Draymond both out rebound you. That can't happen.
Right.
You're the biggest, baddest guy on the floor. Go dominate. Okay, so
go be that guy.
Yeah. So Kobe averaged 6 rebounds a game. LeBron averaged 7.4. Okay. Again, LeBron, all this great all around player. He averaged 7 assists a game. Kobe averaged 5.3. Not that big of a difference, but LeBron,
not a big difference.
Better rebounder, better passer. Okay. Steals, identical, 1.7. Blocks, they both average less than 1 block a game. Not much different. Turnovers, barely more LeBron. Basically a wash. And their scoring average, an identical 28.3 to 28.3. So LeBron and Kobe, people would think without looking at the numbers, okay, they both,
I would have thought Kobe averaged more points.
And LeBron averaged better. Yeah, and shot better, and LeBron did everything else better. Their scoring, identical. Better shooter, LeBron. Better assist and rebound, barely LeBron, by like 1 a game, 2 a game. Barely more. And that's my thing with LeBron is LeBron, you get caught up in LeBron's box score, but he doesn't do that every night. Like, he'll have a night where he has 38, 15, and 12. He doesn't do that every night. You know what I mean? Like, he'll have a game like that, but he doesn't do that. And, to be fair to LeBron, who can do that every night? Okay? But the point being, on On average, during that stretch, he's 28 points, 7.5 rebounds, 7 assists. That's who he was during that stretch. Kobe during
So he's basically Kobe.
Kobe during that stretch, 28 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists. There's not a huge difference between the two.
Man.
Now let's compare.
And think about that, too. Like, during that stretch for Kobe, he wasn't the same. He didn't have the same role as LeBron, where LeBron is, without a question, the man on his team during that stretch of his life.
Doubt. No
where
doubt.
Kobe is playing with Shaq. Shaq's eating up some of them boards.
Yeah. He's definitely eating up some of the points. Definitely.
Some of the points, all that stuff. Whereas, it's just and the Lakers played a lot different. They were definitely a more traditional, old school type of team during that stretch of when Kobe was really, really good with Shaq and all those guys. Like, he didn't have the same role as LeBron.
And again,
maybe that changes his number some.
But you're right about all that. But I'll say this. Kobe's scoring average during those years, we're going age 21 to 29, 22.5, 28.5, 25.2, 30, 24, 27.6, 35.4, 31.6. I mean, those were his good years. Kobe, after that period in his career, his scoring average really dipped as he got older. It really did. And so,
and he had 50,000 broken bones.
And that's the point: is as you cross age 30, and this is true for Michael too, and it's true for LeBron. As you cross age 30, your numbers dip. Everybody wants to say, people might criticize, oh well, you're not looking at these other years with LeBron. No, I'm counting LeBron's best years from 21 to 29. Right. That was his best years. Age 30, his scoring average started dropping. His rebounds and everything. Now last year he did pick up his rebounds and assists. He did, and his scoring average is still high. And that's the thing about LeBron is his numbers haven't changed that much as he's got older, like some other guys have. Which is why I said I think a better comparison would be Kareem, because they're going to have a more similar career. But getting back to Jordan and LeBron, let's compare their numbers. If you look at minutes per game, 38.7 for Jordan, 39.2 for LeBron. LeBron played barely more. So, again, we're talking about virtually the same number of games, the same number of minutes. Jordan averaged making 12 out of 23 shots a game. LeBron averaged making 10 out of 20. So, LeBron just shot right at 51%. Jordan shot right at 52%. Almost the same percentage. Jordan's a better shooter, but he also shot more than LeBron. Okay, 3-pointers. LeBron was 1.4 out of 4.1 per game. Jordan made 0.4 out of 1.4. He just didn't shoot very many. Now he shot.
He knew where he's supposed to be at.
He shot 30% from three, but if you look at Jordan's playoff shooting during that stretch, he shot way better in the playoffs from three. He just didn't.
And to me, too, one thing to think about in terms of their field goal percentage is that they are from two different totally eras.
Absolutely.
Where MJ's shots were coming a lot tougher. And
getting
he was
hammered.
Shooting shots, getting drilled,
yes.
No calls.
Yes.
Whereas you can watch the playoff game today where LeBron is getting tapped. There was 2 or 3 times he gets tapped. He is falling to the ground, getting the calls. And, to me, that can be misleading that they were so close. Because I think everybody in their heart knows Michael Jordan is not just 1% better shooter than LeBron.
Well, he's a way better finisher, way better mid-range player. But Jordan got to free throw. They got to free throw line almost identical, 8.9 to 9. Jordan barely got there more. But again, he's an 85% shooter. LeBron's about a 75% shooter. Here's a crazy statistic: when you get to rebounds, again, people would think, "Oh, LeBron, he's a better all-around player. He does everything. All Jordan did was score." Not true. Jordan averaged 1.7 offensive rebounds a game. LeBron averaged 1.2. If you're the biggest, strongest, baddest guy on the floor, how do you not go rebound more than LeBron did? Total rebounds.
And again, Jordan's era, for him to go get almost 2 offensive rebounds a game against big players.
Yeah, Jordan's having to
now
go in there with
small guys.
With Shaq, Patrick Ewing, Elijah One, those guys, Kareem. Jordan's going in the lane with those guys. LeBron's going in there. He's the biggest guy on the floor now. There's no centers left. LeBron averaged 7.4 rebounds a game during that stretch. Jordan averaged 6.3. So LeBron right at a rebound more a game. Assists, LeBron averaged 7. Jordan averaged 5.9. About an assist more a game. Steals, LeBron averaged 1.7. Jordan 2.7. LeBron less than a block a game. Jordan 1 block per game. So defensively, he's better. And on the ball, Jordan was better defender than LeBron.
Right.
Points and rebounds, rebounds and assists, LeBron's one more a game than Jordan. Jordan averaged 32 a game, LeBron averaged 28 a game. So, again, just looking at the numbers, 28, 7 and 7 for LeBron. Jordan, 32, 6 and 6. Just by the numbers, he's a better player. He was.
Right.
For all this stuff about LeBron, well, he does more things than Jordan. Not true at all. That's just, again, looking at the box score.
That's hype is what that is.
It's just hype. It's not looking at what really happened. So let's get past the box score. Let's get past it and get into the advanced statistics, okay? The PER, what they would, your efficiency rating, your total player rating. LeBron is at 29.2 during that same stretch. Jordan is at 29.8. If you go over to total rebound percentage, LeBron 11.3, Jordan 9.5. Again, Jordan's offensive rebound percentage was higher than LeBron's. Assist percentage, LeBron's 35, Jordan 26.7. So LeBron did assist on a higher percentage. Steal percentage, Jordan's higher. Block percentage, virtually even. Turnover percentage, LeBron 12.2, Jordan 9.9. So again, with LeBron's assists and everything, some of that came with more turnovers. Okay,
right.
Their usage percentage was virtually the same. Offensive win shares, Jordan had more. Defensive win shares, it gave LeBron more. Total win shares, it actually gave LeBron more win shares than Jordan during that stretch. And part of that is you got to look at win shares as an inflated statistic because the Cavs during that stretch, they probably did win more games than the Bulls. Like their season record might have been better during that stretch. And so, again, if you look at those things, it's pretty amazing, when you break it down. Now, I want to go to the playoffs, okay, which is what we're talking about. LeBron at that point, he had won 2 rings. Jordan won 2 rings. We look at the regular season stats, I would argue Jordan's are better. And to me, it's not even close because he scored so much better. He shot so much better. He didn't turn the ball over as much. And LeBron's only 1 rebound and 1 assist a game better, okay? If you go down through their playoff minutes, LeBron 42.5, Jordan 41.8. Field goals, just like the regular season, but LeBron actually shoots quite a bit worse in the playoffs. 9.6 out of 20 per game. He shot 48%. Jordan shot above 50%. Made about 12 or 13 shots out of 25 a game. 3-point percentage. LeBron 33% in the playoffs. Jordan 35% in the playoffs. Okay, this is over the same period of time. Now, let me back up. LeBron played 158 playoff games during this stretch. Jordan played 111. Part of that was early in Jordan's career, they had to play the Celtics when they were still in their dynasty mode. So Jordan's going like 3 or 4 games and going out. The 86 Celtics at the time, people said that's the greatest team of all time. When it's kind of like the Warriors right now. People can argue that the Warriors were the greatest of all time or not, but they're the best one we've seen recently for sure.
Yeah.
That's what people said about the Celtics then, the 86 team that beat Jordan, and he scored 69 on them. So, but Jordan, he shot 50% to LeBron's 48, 35% to LeBron's 33 from 3. Free throw percentage, 83 to 75. If you look at rebounds, LeBron 8.4, Jordan 6.7. Jordan still had more offensive rebounds too. Assists in the playoffs, you would have never guessed this one. Jordan 6.6, LeBron 6.4. In the playoffs, Jordan averaged more assists than LeBron during the stretch. And when you get over to steals, Jordan with the lead. Blocks, Jordan with the lead. Points per game, LeBron 28. And again, this is LeBron through his whole time with the Heat, through when he torched the Pistons and went with the, early in his career, when he's just lighting the league on fire. And this is when he scored all those points against Orlando, and he averaged like 35 a game for a series. LeBron's whole career, right here through the playoffs, he averaged 28 a game. Jordan, just under 35 a game. So, which guy do you want? 35 points, 6.5 rebounds, 6.5 assists, or 28 points, 8 rebounds, 6.5 assists. I mean, to me, it's not even close. It's not. If you just go.
And the other thing that stats don't tell, which, I mean, they can if you look up time of possession and stuff like that, but LeBron's numbers are even inflated to the fact that he's got the ball in his hand
all
so much
the time.
that he's going to make a play.
Right.
Because you can watch them play, and he will literally hold the ball at the top of the key and stare down, where Corver's coming off these screens at, and just wait. And, he's going to throw it there, or he's going to throw it to the guy that's flipping the screen or something like that. Whereas Jordan's got it, and he's either shooting it or passing it.
Right.
Every time. It's not so often to where it's, I'm just going to hold the ball, and I'm either going to score or get the assist at the end of this play like we see guys like John Wall and Russell Westbrook and James Harden.
Yeah,
it's
just
that's literally just stat chasing it. And to me, that's a lot of what LeBron gets.
It's a right way to play versus a wrong way to play, and this is my total argument about LeBron. The shame about LeBron James, the shame of it. I mean, this guy is one of the all-time talents and arguably the greatest player. You can argue it. I mean, he's that good. But the problem is he came in with a horrible organization. He's never played for a great coach. Jordan averaged 37 points a game when Phil Jackson got there. He took the ball out of Michael's hands a lot less isolation. Jordan was LeBron early in his career.
Right.
He got under a great coach who put him in a system to where the ball's going to move. It's hard to play that. Kind of like the Warriors now, the Spurs, when the Spurs have been so good. It's hard to play that when the ball moves. If LeBron could ever get in a system, and of course he's getting to the back part of his career, he's had 15 years under his belt. Again, I think if you just had him trade places, we could say he could have been the greatest player. I mean, as far as talent, he may be the greatest talent we've ever seen.
And I think that's the frustrating thing about LeBron too, is that even the people that are diehard Jordan fans probably believe deep down that LeBron has got more talent, potential, all that, but he just doesn't play the same way to where he's maximizing all that.
Yeah, it's not for lack of talent that he's not the best
I don't
player.
think he's as good of a player as he could be.
Exactly. It's the way he plays, and it's the way he's been allowed to play. And here's a statistic that's fascinating, and this is the biggest thing. These guys can change teams now, okay? Like what Kevin Durant did going to Golden State, what LeBron and Wade and Bosh did teaming up in Miami. They can trade teams now because there's so much money. The first championship season, the Chicago Bulls, Michael Jordan was their highest paid player. Take a guess at how much money Michael Jordan made. 1991, he's the highest paid player on the Bulls.
Oh, I know it's low. Is it like $3 million?
$2.5 million. Scottie Pippen, undoubtedly second best player on the team, made $765,000. The whole team's payroll was $10.4 million. Okay?
Unreal.
Unbelievable. Okay, now fast forward just to 93, just 2 years later, when they won their third championship in a row. Jordan is the highest paid player. He's making $4 million a year. They got Pippen up to almost $3.5 million a year. Okay? So Jordan and Pippen are making some money. Some other guys are making $2 million. Cartwright's making $2 million. Horace Grant's making $1.9 million. Then after Jordan retired, Grant ended up going to play for the Magic. He left for $5 or $6 million a season. Somebody else come along with some money. And here's the point that I'm making. Back then, guys were not turning down the money. They were not saying, "Hey, I'll team up and play with you, Michael." If da-da-da, because the owner wasn't going to pay two guys $4 million a year. He wasn't going to pay two guys $5 million a year. So Patrick Ewing had his team.
You had to go get it where you could get it.
Jordan had his team. You know what I mean? Magic had his team. Barkley had his team. Everybody had their own team because you couldn't team up because the money wasn't there. Now there's so much money in the sport. You can pay like our man Otto Porter. You got 3 max players on the Wizards. You got 3 guys on the Washington Wizards who are the 8th seed in the East. 3 guys,
and then a guy making $16 million a year off the bench.
You got 3 guys, $21 million, $25 million, and John Wall making $40 million, and then another guy making $16 million. That's Jan Mahimi made more money this year than the entire 1991 Chicago Bulls team. Drop the mic and walk away. So now.
Hey, talking like that, where you say, LeBron and Jordan trade places, maybe LeBron had the better career because of the organization and all that. But if they trade places, Jordan gets to do the same stuff LeBron did because of the money.
That's right.
What if he goes and teams up?
That's right.
With guys.
That's right.
And he probably would have done it to where, like KD did, team up in a better system.
Yeah,
get my buddies.
And again, you could argue that, hey, just let him trade places and put Jordan in the finals 8 times. He might have 8 rings
Oh.
instead of 6. You know, I mean, you could make the same argument. You're exactly
And that's
right.
the thing, too, like we've seen on Facebook, and everybody always says this is the debate all the time. Jordan didn't play anybody in the finals. Well, LeBron doesn't play anybody in the East, first of all. They just got took to 7 games by the Pacers, who have no max players, traded away their best player, and wildly overachieved this year.
Yeah,
in the first round, they got took to 7
to
games.
get out of the East, Jordan had to go through Bird Celtics. He had to go through the Bad Boys Pistons. Then he had to go through the Knicks with Patrick Ewing, and those guys were great. Those were great Knicks
Well,
teams.
no, he didn't. Well, he did face the Magic teams a little bit.
He faced the Magic
when he
teams.
came back.
He had to go through Shaq and Penny. He had to go through Reggie Miller and the Pacers and those guys. Like, the East was really good. And the thing
It was
is
brutal,
now,
too.
if you're good, like look at last year, if you're good, you don't have any competition until you get to the finals. In either side. The Warriors swept the West. They went 12-0. The Cavs went 12-1. There's no competition.
And that's the thing, too, like, we say LeBron plays these all-time great teams in the finals, and he's played some good Spurs teams.
Yep.
Some really good Warriors teams.
Yep.
But the Thunder
weren't an all-time great
they
team.
were all talented.
They couldn't.
But they were young.
They weren't even old enough to drink.
Right.
I mean, that's not an all-time great team.
That's LeBron's, first or second?
That was his
Super
first
team
championship.
year?
That was his first championship.
Was that the first Super
No,
team?
they got beat by
Was
Dallas.
Miami?
And that's
the other team I was going to mention is Dallas.
They got beat by Dallas. They had one Hall of Famer.
Name their starting 5.
They had one Hall of Famer.
Give me 2 more players.
They had Dirk. Dirk was in his prime. He was prime Dirk. They also had Jason Kidd, but Jason Kidd, I think he was 50 that year.
Oh, my God. Could he even walk?
You know, I mean, and so
they got obliterated by Jason Terry.
They got beat by an old Mavericks team with peak Dirk. Dirk was great. Then the next year they beat the Baby Thunder. Then the next year they beat the Spurs on a miracle shot by Ray Allen. But give them credit, they won a championship. And then next year they get beat by, I think, one of the great teams I've ever seen. That Spurs team that beat them was phenomenal. They were great. Then he gets beat by the Warriors, who, for all we know, everybody says, oh, one of the all-time great teams. Yes, that Warriors team was great, but they won a championship and lost a championship. That group.
Yeah.
I mean, does one championship make you great? Then they added KD. This is a whole different
and when
team.
they did, think about when they did beat them. All the stuff that happened in the finals.
Yeah, they beat them.
Draymond suspended. Iguodala didn't play a game, I don't think.
Well, they beat the Cavs the first year when they won it. They
Right,
beat them in
the
6
second
games.
year, though, when the Cavs won is when Draymond got suspended for a game.
Yeah.
When this happened, and who saved them in the last 2 games? Kyrie.
That's right. And so, that would be my argument. Would be if you look at the way, and then here's the other thing: the off the court money. KD can go take a little less because a little less is $25 million a year, and then he's got like a $1 billion deal with whoever his shoe people are, right?
Nike.
So you can afford to do those things when you're in that situation that these guys are in financially. Now they can team up, and again, so the playoffs are a lot easier because you're going to kill everybody in the first 2 rounds.
Yeah.
You might have a little competition in the conference finals, maybe, and then you got the finals. So you only have 2 rounds of playoffs now instead of an entire playoffs that Jordan and those guys had to go through back in the days. I remember in the semifinals when the Knicks took them 7 games, and I mean, it's just a bloodbath. It's just an absolute war. And, it's like when you got 2 or 3 or 4 rounds like that, I mean, yeah, LeBron might have played more Hall of Famers because now they're grouped up on teams. You're playing with more.
Right. They're not spread out.
You got 2 or 3 or 4 on your team too, And
I'm telling you right now, those teams that he played, Michael played in the finals, those Jazz teams were good. They would be good today. The Suns team with Barkley.
They were good.
You don't think that team could have made it through the East?
That team was
year?
good. That team was good.
That team
I'll tell you,
there,
the team
and
to me, the what-if team is the Blazers.
In the finals would make it through the East.
The what-if team to me is the Blazers because you got to go back and say, first of all, in '89, the Blazers had a chance to do something. They got beat by the Lakers in the playoffs. The Lakers ended up getting beat in the finals that year. But they were just a couple plays away from going to the NBA Finals in '89. Okay? In '90, they did go to the finals. And they took the Bad Boys Pistons, gave them all they wanted. Then they come back in '92, they take the Bulls 6 games. So they had like a little 3 or 4 year window there where, I mean, that Blazers team was really good. And that's the thing is you got a lot of guys walking around right now without rings because of Michael Jordan. You know,
right?
And the only
I
reason
think all those teams LeBron or Michael beat in the finals would have taken LeBron.
And that's the thing is if you say
good series,
if you say just trade places, if LeBron doesn't have this clutch gene, which I don't think that, but I'm just saying like if you take LeBron back to that time, does Barkley get him? Do those Blazers get him? Does he go 4?
Right.
Does he go 4-2? You know, does Jordan come on this side and go 6-2? You know what I mean? Like,
right.
I mean, you know, there what if? But I think that the fact that guys can swap teams is very interesting. And so, having said all that, you know, I guess to bring it back full circle to Kareem, I think it's more, pertinent to the argument to say that Kareem and LeBron, they're, you know, because people that are out there listening to this right now, all 20 of them, they're probably saying, oh, well, you know, yeah, if we're just going to take the best 8 or 9 years, of course LeBron was better or Jordan's better, you know, but you're not taking the back half of LeBron's career into consideration. And I guess that's kind of my point that I'm trying to make is if you look at the longevity of Kareem's career, the longevity of LeBron's career, yeah, you can argue that they had a better career than Jordan. You can argue. I wouldn't agree with that, but you can argue it.
But there's a difference between having a better career and being a better player.
Exactly. That's exactly right. And so that's my point is let's pick a year or a 2 or 3 year window or a 5-year window. Like when was Jordan at his peak? When was LeBron? LeBron's not at his peak anymore. He's not. Yeah. He's still great. He is. You could argue
LeBron's resume might look better than Jordan.
He's been great longer than Jordan was. I'll say that. Like he's been great longer. Doesn't mean he was better. Like at their peak, at their what defines it? That one 10-year career or 10-year window of Kareem's career? Does that define it? I'm just saying
if that's
this.
the case, then he's the best.
Yeah, if that's the argument, he's the best. If it's more rings, Bill Russell's the best. I'm saying if you get down to the bottom of all of it, who was the best player? If we're walking out there picking teams right now, who is the best player?
Yep.
People want to
that's
say
what it's about right there.
People want to say, well, LeBron's better all around. That's not true. We just disproved that with the numbers.
Well, like I just said too, where he's got the ball in his hand, so of course it's going to look like. And I'm saying all that's high from high school, where the 6'8" guy making all these plays and passing, and he's kind of doing that stuff now, but he's dominating the ball so much to where he basically has no choice but to do that.
And he is so great. He is so great that he almost makes it work. You know what I mean? Like whereas a guy like Russell Westbrook, Russ is a great player. He's not LeBron. Russ, it blows up in Russ's face. It blows up in John Wall's face. You know what I mean? Like LeBron is so great, he can play the wrong way and it almost works. And I was talking with a guy today on Twitter, and I said LeBron's career, he should have been a point power forward. You know, at least from age 25 on. You know, he
should have been what Ben Simmons is right now.
He should be what Ben Simmons is right now. And
they played him that way today.
And they did. That's right. They posted him a lot. And if LeBron would have did that his whole career, but again, what's that take? It takes a great coach to say, LeBron, get in there.
It takes LeBron being disciplined.
It takes him being coachable, but it takes him having let's be fair. He's played for some clowns. Let's just be fair. So then, if he's got a great GM putting players around him, not trading every draft pick, saying, hey, just wait, LeBron. Wait. Trust me, Andrew Wiggins is going to be better than Kevin Love. Just wait. Just give it a second, you know. If he had those things, then I think you could argue that he is better than Michael. But, you know, physically, he's maybe the best player we've ever seen. Maybe. Him or Wilt. I just think if you're saying who's the best player, Jordan with his physical ability, if LeBron's 100, Jordan's a 98, you know, physically. It's not like there's miles apart between them, right? And then the way that Jordan played made him a better player. The way he played, and the numbers back up what I'm saying, but also
I think Jordan's more skilled too.
He's more skilled. He is. I mean, he's more skilled. The numbers back it up. He can get his
regardless of shooting percentage, Jordan's a better shooter. He's
better finisher.
As good of a passer.
Better defender.
Better finisher.
Yep. And
way better defender.
The numbers back
all that up. As good of a
up.
rebounder.
The numbers back all that up. And so, and again.
And then to me, like another thing about LeBron, and this kind of goes with all-around player, you hear over and over how he just makes his teammates better, makes them better. And Kyle Korver talked about it today before the game. But to me, if he makes his teammates better, why have Jay Crowder, Dwayne Wade, went on since
Kyrie
they got
Irving.
traded from Cleveland,
Yeah.
Kyrie Irving? Why have they all done better without him?
Yep.
And now you got these guys like Jordan Clarkson, Larry Nance, George Hill, who were playing good.
Just shrinking from the moment.
And then they come to Cleveland, and now it's like Rodney Hood. Like, are they even playing the game anymore? He hasn't made those guys better.
Right. Yeah, and so to kind of put a bow on this thing, I think, again, if you look at LeBron's whole career, it's kind of like looking at Kareem's whole career. I mean, yeah, that's tough to argue with. But, you know, the very beginning of LeBron's career wasn't as good as he was in the middle. And at the like even now, at the end of his career, he's not as good as he was in the middle. The same could be said for Kareem.
Right.
Same thing
Right.
could be said for Wilt. I'm just saying, if you give me Michael Jordan, like we just said, from age 21 to 29, but if you give me Jordan from age 23 to age 32, that 12-year window from when he averaged 37 a game till when he hit the final shot over Byron Russell when he won his sixth championship. Over a 6-year period, he averaged 32.7 points, 6.5 rebounds, 5.8 assists, 2.7 steals, and 1 block shot a game. He won 6 championships. If he didn't go play baseball, coulda, woulda, shoulda. And then the other 2 of those other years, he got beat by the Bad Boys Pistons, who won the championship. So for about a 10-year stretch, they were the best team in the world, or runner-up best team in the world.
Right.
I mean, and guys,
I think we just kind of said Jordan's the best player ever without ever, until now, mentioning he's got more rings.
He's got more rings. Yeah, we never brought up the rings argument.
Because that part, to me, rings isn't as big of a deal. We never mentioned Jordan's killer instinct or any of that stuff.
Just numbers,
the intangibles,
skills, eyeball test. Jordan was better.
Eyeball test is all it takes
so
to me.
Here's
if you go out there and watch them play, just watch them practice by themselves. Jordan's a better player.
And having said all that, I think LeBron James is phenomenal, and I would just tell everybody out there, enjoy this guy while we got him, because in my lifetime I've only seen a handful of guys that were this much fun to watch play. Enjoy this guy while we got him. And I'm not a LeBron fan per se. I'm not a fan of his the way I think he throws guys under the bus sometimes, and he's a look at me guy. But I am a fan of his game. I am a fan of his game. The guy's a phenomenal player. So here's my top 10 all-time list. It took me a lot of debate, and I flip-flop MJ and Kareem about 10 times. But I've got MJ at number 1. I just can't, like I said, I can't argue against. He had the best 10 or 12-year run where he was the best player on 6 championship teams. He was the best player on 6 championship teams. And like I said, during a 10 or 12-year run where he averaged 32, 33 points a game, was the best player in the world. I don't know if you've ever seen a guy have a run that good. Even though Kareem was a 6-time MVP during that run, he was only the best player on the championship team twice. So, I mean, to me, it's splitting hairs, and tomorrow I might change my mind. But Kareem does not get enough respect in this whole debate. He deserves more respect. Then I've got MJ, Kareem. I've got LeBron as my third because, again, it's tough for me to move Wilt back to fourth. But I just think when you look at LeBron's career, I'm trying to project where he's going to go by the time this is all said and done. I just think the total body of his work is going to pass Wilt's. I think Wilt's was phenomenal. He's the best athlete we've ever seen in the game. But I think with Wilt, a little bit of that is he's just shot so much that his numbers are a little bit inflated. My number 5 player, Magic. I think Magic, he's just on the outside looking in. He's not one of – you can't argue Magic is the greatest of all time, but you can definitely say he's one of the greatest of all time. So I've got him my 5. 6, I got Bill Russell. I almost dropped Bill Russell completely out of my top 10.
Yeah, I can see that.
Because, I think Russ is the one guy, he's propped up by the rings argument. If he didn't have the rings, look at the rest of what he did. But I'd say this, with Russell, you got to look at the guys he had to beat. And for him to be the best player on that many teams, And I know he had a lot of help.
Look at the guys he played with.
I know he had a lot of help. But
in that day and age when there weren't as many teams either.
When you keep beating Wilt Chamberlain and you keep beating Jerry West, and Russell's got to be somewhere in the argument. And so to me, it's kind of like if you drop him too much further back. And here's why I put him at 6, because my number 7 guy is Larry Bird. And I was like, how can you put Larry Bird ahead of Bill Russell? Like, you just can't put Larry Bird ahead of Bill Russell when he did that much more with the Celtics.
Larry don't get enough love.
Larry Bird does not get enough love. Larry Bird was the MVP 3 years in a row. Let that sink in for a minute. Larry Bird, phenomenal player. There's not that much difference from Larry Bird and LeBron, in my opinion. There is athletically, but there's not as far as the substance of their game. I would make the argument, I think Bird was a better passer than LeBron. And people might throw stuff at me for saying that. But Larry Bird was an unbelievable passer. He was a far superior rebounder to LeBron. He was a better shooter than LeBron and near the same scorer as LeBron. So I think if you take the total points, rebounds, assists part of their game, the offensive side and the rebounding side of their game, Bird was a better player than LeBron. He absolutely was. I think when you take the other parts into equation and you take the longevity of their career into the equation, because Bird's career was cut short by injuries. He only played like a good 10 years.
He barely got to play.
Yeah, he got hurt towards the end. But Bird's my number 7. My number 8 is Shaq. And I had a little trouble with the back half of my top 10, but Shaq, most dominant ever, him and Wilt. I mean, Shaq just unbelievable, force of nature. My number 9 was Kobe. My number 10, I had a lot of, not to gloss over Kobe, we just talked about him. But Kobe, somebody said you can't even put LeBron past Kobe at this point. I think you can. I mean, I know Kobe had the rings, but Kobe was only the best player on 2 championship teams. He was with Shaq on the first 3, and he deserves credit for those first 3. I'm not taking credit. I'm just saying there's something to be said for being the best player on a championship team. And then again, you got to say, like we said with Magic and Kareem, Shaq and Kobe, that's the only other time you could say you had 2 of the 10 best players of all time on one roster. And then my 10th guy, and I really had a lot of trouble going back and forth because I took Duncan out of my top 10. I don't think Tim Duncan is one of the 10 best ever. I think he's probably one of the 20 best ever. But I think part of what gives Duncan a lot of credit is he's got 5 rings. I almost put Akeem in my 10th spot, but I went with Oscar just because I think Oscar's kind of getting slighted a little bit here recently, but you just go back and look at the numbers, and he won a championship, and I mean, just his total impact on the game. I mean, Oscar, I could argue Hakeem there. I could argue Jerry West there. There's a few different guys I could argue at that 10th spot, but that's my top 10.
Well, I got one for you, and mine's a lot different than yours. It's going to sound the same at first, but then it's going to get a lot different. 1, MJ. 2, Kareem. Now we're going to get a little funky. 3, Wilt. I don't care about the inflation of his numbers.
Okay.
He was a good player, and he would absolutely murder people today. 4, and this could be biased, but after you did the research and the numbers and all that, I always knew it all along, and now the numbers prove it. 4 is Kobe. Then I'm going to go 5, LeBron. 6, Magic. 7, Bird. 8, Shaq. 9, Hakeem. 10. And maybe I'm reaching here, but I don't think this guy gets enough love either. Barkley.
Yeah, you reached. Barkley was great, though. He's a great player. He's probably top 25 to 30. I'd put him on my top 25 to 30. I think some other guys, that I think history is going to look back and say, wow, those guys were good. Dirk. I think KG. I tell you who's going to end up being.
I want to put KG in there.
I think Kevin Durant's going to be in the top 10.
Durant's going to be in it.
I think Durant's going to be in the top 10. I do. I think we're looking at another just all-time great player. And again, that it takes away from Durant a little bit what he did going to Golden State. But it doesn't take away. That's kind of the argument we're making. Just if Durant never won a ring, don't your eyeballs tell you that, man, this guy is a phenomenal player? Isn't he one of the best players that you ever saw? And That's what I'm saying about Jordan and LeBron. To wipe all the numbers away, the numbers prove what we just said. The numbers are proving it. LeBron's not this superior all-around player to Jordan. It's not like Jordan averaged 35 points and 1 assist. You know, there's 1 assist and 1 rebound difference between LeBron and Jordan. And in the playoffs, Jordan had more assists than LeBron. It's just, you know, LeBron averaged 1 more rebound a game and Jordan averaged 7 more points a game. Like, it's not even close.
Right.
And so, you know, I think this is the best Jordan versus LeBron debate ever.
Maybe it's got everybody settled on who's the best.
I feel like Nick Wright and Stephen A. Smith and, you know, the people on both sides of the debate, you know, Nick Wright's a LeBron, Stephen A. is a Jordan guy. I feel like the guys on both sides of the debate will feel good about this and probably want to call in the next time we have a show.
They should.
You know, and I feel like, or maybe they'll call us and ask us to be on their show when the 32
maybe
people.
We can just do like a dual simulcast type and
maybe so.
do both those at once.
But I think when we do the 32 people listening to this, share it and tell other people about it. That's going to be the key.
Let it be known to the world. Don't hold it. It's not a secret.
Yeah, well, we're gonna sign off with a little more Muscadine Bloodline. This is their song, Porch Swing Angel, and Toby, I enjoyed this. It was a lot of fun.
Hey, this is my favorite one too, right here. This is Porch Swing Angel, the #1 Muscadine Bloodline song.
This is the best one. So thanks to everybody for listening. We'll do it again next week.
Don't you put on that makeup, we ain't going nowhere. Let's just sit on this porch swing, we can take it from there. It's the sound of the chain links as we rock till it's night, and we can watch as the sun sets in hopes of holding you tight. And be my porch swing angel, got my heartstrings tangled, got those eyes that'll bring you to your knees. It's her smile like Sundays, been a while but one day, yeah, that girl, she's the only thing I need. Wanna tell her how I feel, but I don't wanna scare her away. We've been friends for a long time, I don't wanna change that today. But I'm sick of fighting these feelings, cause I ain't slept in days. I'm tired of hanging on this limb, cause I can't find the right words to say. Except be my porch swing angel, got my heartstrings tangled, got those eyes that'll bring you to your knees. It's her smile like Sundays, been a while but one day, yeah, that